Coming up on this episode, the Warriors find themselves in an increasingly disastrous scenario and a big deep hole they're going to have to try and pivot to get their way out from. I'll discuss it all and where the franchise can potentially turn from here. Yes, welcome back to the Golden State with Mates podcast. This is going to be a pretty pessimistic episode. If you are wanting to listen to this with optimism and hope for the future of the Golden State Warriors, you're probably not going to get it from me right now, because this is, as I said in the intro there, an increasingly disastrous scenario for the Warriors. I sat here less than 24 hours ago and spoke about the worst scenario possible for the Warriors, that being them waiving Chris Paul's contract and letting Klay Thompson walk in free agency. And it sounds like that's a path we're going down at the moment. A disastrous couple of hours here for the Golden State Warriors ahead of free agency. First of all, Paul George, of course, he was the one that the Warriors were aggressively targeting over the past week or so here. And he ultimately chooses to opt out of his $48.8 million player option for next season, making him an unrestricted free agent and taking away the possibility of an opt-in and trade scenario, which is what the Warriors would have needed to be able to acquire Paul George. So that is now off the table. Paul George will not be coming to the Warriors, and instead he will probably be heading to the Philadelphia 76ers, Orlando Magic, two teams with obviously major cap space. Could potentially re-sign with the Clippers, but that probably seems unlikely at the moment after this decision. So the PG thing goes out the door, and then an hour or so later, we get a huge blockbuster report from the Athletics' Shams Charania and Anthony Slater stating that the Warriors are preparing to see the departure, lose Klay Thompson in free agency, which has basically come on the back of the franchise prioritizing a major trade for George in the last week or so, and putting the whole Klay situation on the back burner to the side of things, not prioritizing the franchise legend at all, which understandably Klay's upset with and doesn't really want to listen to any offers that the Warriors could potentially come with here in the next 24, 48 hours, which they could. Now they're not going to go for Paul George. They have the coin to be able to go back to Klay and say, what's it going to take? But he's not necessarily going to listen, given the souring relationship between player and franchise, which is, I don't know, it's hugely disappointing. It is, it's a gut-wrenching day for all Warrior fans. Me, personally, Klay Thompson's my favourite player. The fact that I'm sitting here talking on this podcast is partly down to Klay Thompson, who helped me, fall in love with basketball, helped me fall in love with the Golden State Warriors. As I said, my favourite ever player. Named a cat after him. Everything that he's done for the franchise, it's sad. There's no other way to put it. It's sad, and he's put us through a lot of emotions over his career, almost always, joyous and exhilarating. But this is obviously a disappointing one. There's part of me that still hopes that maybe Steph can send, or not send a message, but give Klay a phone call and try and reach out and mend things, because it sounds like, in terms of Klay and ownership and the front office with Mike Dunleavy Jr. and Joe Lacob and whatnot, seems like things have gone pretty far south there, and we've got to this situation now where even before free agency even opens, it's pretty imminent, obviously, that he's going to leave. And again, maybe Steph can reach out at the last hour and try and do something, as he did with Kevin Durant when he departed for the Brooklyn Nets in 2019. Or as he tried to do. I think he was on a plane, wasn't he, when the whole thing went down, on a plane to go see Kevin Durant, something like that. But I don't know. This is a woeful scenario to be in, and you have that Paul George news, which is then backed up by the Klay stuff. It's incredibly disappointing. There's no other way to put it, and the Warriors are now in a scenario where they are in a deep hole. They're backed into a corner, and they're going to have to try and pivot some way or another. Maybe there's a shock move coming that we don't know about, and that they could rectify the outlook on their future with a shock move here in the next 24, 48 hours. But at the moment, it doesn't look like it. There's nothing seemingly, coming in reports that suggests something will happen. Obviously, Paul George was the big one. And the issue is they put kind of all their eggs in the Paul George basket, which meant once that fell over, this Klay thing obviously, becomes irreparable. And then you've also got the fact that a few of their trade targets that they may have gone after are already off the board. You talk about Alex Caruso, who they made a strong offer for at the mid-season deadline, traded to the Thunder for Josh Giddey. You talk about Mikal Bridges. Knicks make, a huge offer to the Nets. They get him. And then yesterday as well, the New Orleans Pelicans get DeJounte Murray, who, again, the Warriors had some interest in going back to the deadline, and who a rival executive saw as the most realistic trade target for the Warriors heading into the offseason. So it's a nightmare scenario right now. And unless there's a shock move coming that we don't see, right now the Warriors are facing the possibility of, Klay Thompson leaving in free agency and Chris Paul's contract just being waived off the books. And the worst part of all this, if you couldn't turn the knife in anymore, well, how about the fact that Klay's probably going to leave for a Western Conference contender, a direct rival? It's probably either going to be, we've got the Lakers, we've got the Clippers involved, we've got the Mavericks, potential sign and trade with the Nuggets, but I'm not really sure how that would work. Looks like LeBron has opted out to renegotiate a new deal and potentially open up a bit more cap space for the Lakers to go and lure Klay Thompson to the Lakers, which is... it's just going to look weird. It's just going to look weird. It's horrible for the Warriors. Absolutely. I just can't understate. I can't overstate how horrible this is. Like, it's Klay Thompson leaving to go play for the Lakers and, him wearing the purple and gold playing with LeBron James. This was a Warrior team who tried to get LeBron James themselves at the midseason deadline. The thought was, hey, why doesn't LeBron try and, get his way to the Warriors? Now it's like, okay, Klay is potentially going to go to the Lakers. And, what does Steph make of all this? I think I read a tweet before that, the Warriors are kind of turning into how the Lakers did when Kobe was at the end of his career. And it's really, it's true. Now, you could make the argument this is worse because Kobe was kind of not necessarily a winning player, had a lot of injuries towards the last few years of his career. Steph is still in his prime, still one of the top 10 players in basketball. And what are the Warriors doing right now to help him out? Absolutely nothing. They're losing a key player in Klay Thompson. And I know, you talk about the 0-10 game against the Kings, how disappointing Klay was. He moved to the bench this season. The guy still averaged 18 points per game on 38% three-point shooting. He's a good NBA player still. Is he $43.2 million worth? No, absolutely not. But the Lakers going to get him for the non-taxpayer mid-level exception, $13 million is an absolute steal. Are you kidding me? And so this is horrific. This is genuinely horrific. And I just want to know what Steph makes of all of this. Because the Warriors currently are not a playoff team. They finished 10th this season. They're currently getting worse, and their only avenue to getting better right now is if Jonathan Kuminga all of a sudden explodes into a genuine all-star that averages 25 points per game next season. That is the Warriors' only hope right now. And I've said all along that you cannot pin your hopes on a 21-year-old Jonathan Kuminga who has got very little playoff experience to no playoff experience, essentially, who's still an incredibly young player, raw. We know he's got so much talent. His second half of the season was fantastic. No doubt about that. And that's why I hope the Warriors still don't give up Jonathan Kuminga. But what they needed to do this offseason was to go and get a second star to hopefully still have JK as your third guy and lessen your room for error a little bit, where you've got some upside. Like, if you could have gone and traded for Paul George and kept Kuminga, all of a sudden you got Curry, George, Kuminga, Draymond. There's a pathway there to be a good team. Now, the only pathway to being a good team is solely reliant, essentially, on JK exploding into a player he's capable of being, but whether he can be that player by the start of next season is probably unexpected. And there is going to be a weight on Jonathan Kuminga now where all this pressure is going to go on him because he's got to be the savior, essentially. He's got to be the savior. And we should not be viewing Jonathan Kuminga as such. We should be viewing him as a talented young player who we hope can further break out and become that player, but we shouldn't be pinning the hopes to it when we've still got a 36-year-old Steph Curry. We should not be doing that. And I feel sorry in preparation. I feel sorry for JK Because if he doesn't develop into that player and the Warriors remain not just, out of the playoffs, but there's a chance they're a genuine, 12th, 13th in the West at this point. If things don't, something doesn't happen here in the next 24, 48 hours that, again, as I said, is a shock move that somehow, makes them significantly better. Like, not just looking at being a non-playoff team, looking at being one of the worst teams in the West. You look at the teams below them this season, they're going to be significantly better. We talk about a team like Memphis, who's going to come back healthier and stronger with Ja Morant, Desmond Bain, Jaren Jackson Jr. They might make a move or two here over the next 24, 48 hours. They've just drafted Zach Edey. Like, they are going to clearly be better again and pushing for a playoff spot. The Spurs are going to be no pushover with Wemby coming into his second year. Maybe they make a trade for Darius Garland this offseason. Who knows? Like, there are legit teams in the Western Conference that are going to, like, it's going to be a bloodbath. I've spoke about it. It's going to be a bloodbath just to make the playoffs. And the Warriors right now are not only putting themselves in a position where they're evidently not going to be any kind of favorite to make the playoffs, but there is a chance they are a bottom 3 or 4 team in this conference right now. And pinning all your hopes on Jonathan Kuminga, as talented as he is not the way to go about things. It just isn't. And I can understand they've tried to go after Paul George. I get it. Like, what I would say to fans that are frustrated out there is you probably can't complain about the Warriors not trying to do something. They have tried to do something here with Paul George. They tried to get LeBron at the midseason deadline. Like, they're trying to do things. They just don't have the pulling power to do anything anymore. They just don't. It's as simple as that. And it's just disappointing. It just is what it is. And as a result of trying to get Paul George and making an aggressive move there, you've pissed off Klay Thompson and now he's out the door. And things have just gone from bad to worse. So I don't know where the Warriors go from here, because the issue is they are desperate. They are desperate. The next 24 hours, we've got Chris Paul's guarantee date coming up for next season. Like, what do you do? What do you do if you're the Warriors? Because there is no what team's going to take on that contract without you giving up additional assets? This was seen as a contract where you try and add assets to it to go and get a star level player like a Paul George or someone like that. Now we're kind of viewing it as, like, you're going to have to give assets up for a team to take that. Like, what else are you going to do with it? And so there's a chance here the Warriors just waive Chris Paul. And you know what? Chris Paul's probably going to the Lakers as well. We probably could see CP3 and Klay Thompson head to the Lakers in free agency. There is a legitimate chance that happens. And it's unbelievable. It is unbelievable that we are in this situation. And the Warriors, like, I was at the time, and you can go back through previous episodes around the February midseason deadline. You can go back to those, and I was okay with the fact that they didn't make a move at that point, because you could see that the team was kind of coming together. You could see the rise that JK was making. But now you see what's happened this offseason, and of course you've got to look back and think they should have traded Chris Paul at the midseason deadline. They should have, because at that point, some team could have taken him on and said, well, we just want to free up salary cap room, and he's essentially on an expiring, and then that team could have waived CP3 right now. Instead, any team that wants to take him on has to guarantee his contract for the whole of next season. And so it's just, it's woeful. It's a balance of the Warriors not managing this situation well at all, but also the other aspect is they just don't have pulling power. They don't have the pulling power they once did to be able to lure a big-time trade or free agency target. They just, I don't know. I'm happy to be proven wrong. I'm happy for something to come in the works in the next 24 hours that shocks us and all of a sudden rejuvenates the roster, rejuvenates hope among fans. But right now we don't see it. The only thing, like Woj reported earlier today, that the Jazz are listening a little bit to offers for Lauri Markkanen. Getting Lauri Markkanen would be good. There's no doubt about that. However, there is no doubt in my mind that getting Lauri Markkanen is going to take a similar package to what the Knicks just gave up for Mikal Bridges, because that is a similar scenario where the Jazz don't want to trade Lauri Markkanen. They're not actively shopping him. They don't want to trade Lauri Markkanen. But again, if a team comes in with a huge mammoth offer that's overs, then yeah, they might give him up. They might give him up. And could the Warriors do that? Yeah, absolutely. Like, My colleague Josh Cornelison proposed a trade a week ago, or in the last week here, essentially. That was, I think it was Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, might have been Pods as well, and like 2 future first round picks for Lauri Markkanen. Something along those lines. And that is the Warriors going all in. That is the Warriors going all in. But as Josh pointed out in the article, we're talking about Lauri Markkanen, who has zero, and I mean zero, playoff experience. And so, again, is that the guy you want to trade for to be your second star next to Steph Curry when you're giving up all of your assets? All of them. Like, you're going to have to give up future picks and your best young players for Lauri Markkanen. Is that something you are going to be willing to do? Because, again, the Jazz are not going to give up Markkanen without that. So, like, you're stuck in a corner here where the Warriors are desperate, but they can't seem desperate to other teams because that completely negates their leverage in negotiations. So where do you go here? Where do you honestly go? They are stuck in a corner, and I'm not sure what they can do. Because, again, they don't want to seem desperate, but they kind of just are. They are desperate. They're watching a franchise legend walk out the door. They're watching this Chris Paul contract that's just probably going to have to waive it. Like, no one's going to want it. I don't know. Is it Markkanen? Is it Brandon Ingram? I suppose that's another one. But, there's still some talks that, the Pelicans might keep Ingram alongside Zion, DeJounte Murray, CJ McCollum, which is... I was saying to a mate last night who actually goes to the Pelicans, I was saying, those 4 guys, they're like almost all-star caliber players. Like Zion's, when fit and healthy, an all-star, and Ingram's, close to an all-star, being an all-star before, and McCollum's, pretty high-level player, tier down from an all-star. DeJounte Murray's been an all-star in the last couple of years. Like, they're almost 4 all-star caliber players, and yet they don't really make a whole lot of sense. So I'm not particularly worried about the Pelicans, although I think they'll be good. They'll probably make the playoffs again next season. But the fact that my biggest thing is the fact that you've got, Klay leaving and potentially CP3 leaving, and they're going to a direct Pacific rival in perhaps the Lakers, perhaps the Clippers, perhaps, in Klay's case, maybe he goes to the Mavericks, maybe the Nuggets. I don't know. The only rectifying fact to this Klay stuff is the idea that there could be a sign and trade, and the Warriors are open to sign and trade possibilities, reportedly, according to Shams and Slater. So I don't know what they could potentially get back in that. Again, I guess it's just a case of keeping the salary there to try and see what you can get initially, and then maybe move those players down the track, or whoever it may be. But I'm even looking through the payrolls on some of these teams. It sounds like, the Mavericks, the Lakers, and potentially the Clippers as well, depending on what happens with Paul George, are going to be able to have at least a non-taxpayer mid-level exception. And there's a chance here that, Klay leaves to one of those teams for $12-13 million, and the Warriors can't do anything about it. Like, there's no sign and trade. Klay just leaves outright, and that's that. Like, and this is the Warriors offered Klay 2 years, 48 at the start of the season. He said no, and now what? He's going to go to the Lakers for $10 million less a season? Like, this is you're turning the knife into me at this point. Like, this is rough. This is, I don't know. I'm out of words to describe, out of adjectives to describe what is going on here. It's just super disappointing, and yeah, it's woeful. I'm looking through these payrolls, rosters at these various teams. Like, who could the Warriors even get back? Maybe it's I'm looking, the best option. Honestly, the best option would be Klay going to the Mavericks, and maybe the Warriors get Josh Green back, who's kind of a similar type, can shoot a little bit, can defend a little bit. Not at Klay's level. Me personally, being Australian, it's been a while since the Warriors had an Australian in Andrew Bogut. Wouldn't mind being able to support Josh Green on the Warriors. That's maybe the Mavs would be willing to do that because it'd be an upgrade for them, and the Warriors just say, you know what, could be worse. It's a downgrade, but could be worse. Josh Green's a handy rotation player who can play 20 minutes a game. Looks like an okay-ish deal going. What is he, 4 years, 60 or whatever? It's not a horrific deal. Might not be a great one either, but I'm looking elsewhere. Like the Lakers, if they want to do a sign and trade, they have kind of mid-tier contracts. Rui Hachimura, Jared Vanderbilt, D'Lo's just opted into his deal. Gabe Vincent as well. Like, I don't know. I don't know who the Warriors are possibly they're not like the Lakers aren't going to give up D'Lo. They're not going to give up Hachimura. What the Warriors are going to get Gabe Vincent. I'd honestly, at that point, I'd just let Klay leave for nothing at that point, because that'd almost be more embarrassing if you're getting Gabe Vincent back for Klay Thompson. Like that'd be more embarrassing. Just let him leave for nothing. Nuggets have no players making between $9 and $23 million. Like, so I don't know, that there's nothing that could really happen there. I don't know. We'll wait and see. I don't. This is a disaster, and I don't know. One of my favorite sayings: "If you don't laugh, you'll cry." So I'm trying to have a laugh about it, because it's a nightmare. It's a genuine nightmare, and my big thing is I want to know what Steph is thinking right now. I want to know what he's doing right now, at this very second. Like, is he around the dinner table, just having dinner with Aisha and his kids? Like, is that just what's going on? He's like, cool, yeah. We'll run it back. It looks like we'll be an 11th, 12th seed again. Maybe we can get in the playing tournament if JK takes a rise. Maybe Pods is a bit better, and we can. Maybe Draymond doesn't do anything stupid and we get a full season out of it. Maybe we can be in the playing tournament again. Cool. Yeah, great. It's a long way from winning 4 NBA championships and going to 6 NBA finals. That's when it's all said and done, I'm going to be very interested to hear what Steph has to say. And there's been obviously murmurs, should the Warriors look at trading Steph? And there's been speculation of that. A couple of my mates have suggested that. Guys that are probably more Steph fans than they are Warriors fans. I've always said no, absolutely. Like, I don't care how this ship goes down. You are not trading Steph Curry under any circumstances. The way the Warriors are managing this period, this off season so far, maybe I'm moving slightly into that territory, just because I feel bad for Steph. Like, I feel bad the fact that, like, the Warriors are getting worse around him, not improving, and it's a disaster. Anyway, I'm not going to go along any further, because I'll just be repeating everything that I've already said. But it's obviously going to be another big 24 hours for the Warriors. We'll wait and see if some shock move comes where they can do something extraordinary, but I'm not liking the chances. Other than that, guys, thank you for listening or watching. If you've got through to the end of the episode, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel already, that would be greatly appreciated. You can follow me at POC252, POK252 on X/Twitter. Otherwise, might be back with another episode this time tomorrow, depending on what happens. We'll just wait and see with a big free agency ahead.